landmark World Cup debut, tactical brilliance, and of course, the resounding return of a footballing legend. Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're heading to Houston, Texas, for a completely pivotal Group K clash. We've got an established European titan, Portugal, colliding with absolute newcomers on the world stage, Uzbekistan. The narrative going into this game was just electric, and the outcome on the pitch? Well, it was nothing short of a demolition. Let's dive right in and break down exactly how Portugal secured a stunning 5-0 victory and what this all means for both of these squads moving forward. You know, to truly understand the gravity of this match, we have to start with the emotional stakes. Going into this game, Ronaldo and his team were under a massive microscope. Following a deeply frustrating 1-1 draw against DR Congo on match day 1, the media scrutiny was frankly incredibly harsh. Pundits and fans alike were out there openly questioning whether the 41-year-old forward should still be leading the line for the Seleção. Ronaldo actually called it a dark week. He admitted that public opinion made it feel like he'd already been retired by the press. Talk about a pressure cooker environment. This really set the stage for either a spectacular failure or a massive, massive redemption arc. This matchup brilliantly illustrates a clash of two completely different trajectories. On one side, you have Portugal. They're a footballing powerhouse, completely desperate to silence the critics, reclaim their glory, and prove they actually have the cohesion to chase their first ever world title. On the other side, the White Wolves of Uzbekistan. This is an ambitious, hungry Central Asian nation stepping onto the World Cup grass for the very first time in their entire history. It's the classic narrative, right? The heavyweights with absolutely everything to lose against the underdogs with everything to prove. But hey, before we get into the demolition itself, we absolutely have to respect the sheer weight of history Uzbekistan carried into Houston. I mean, they are the very first Central Asian nation ever to qualify for a men's World Cup, and only the third post-Soviet state to pull this off. Interestingly enough, they're guided by Italian defensive royalty. We're talking 2006 World Cup winning captain Fabio Cannavaro, a guy who definitely knows a thing or two about winning this tournament, and he's drilled them into a highly organized unit. They boast genuine rising talent too, like Manchester City's modern, aggressive defender of the Kudir Husanov. And let's not forget, they punched their ticket here with a really gritty, nerve-wracking 0-0 draw against the UAE back in June 2025. This was no accident. They completely earned their spot on this stage. But on this particular day, experience and raw talent kind of just took over almost immediately. So think about the number 6 for a second, because that is exactly how many minutes it took for the 41-year-old Cristiano Ronaldo to completely shatter the tension and respond to his critics. After a solid week of being told he was too old, too slow, and past his prime, Ronaldo showcased his legendary penalty box instincts. Darting toward the near post, he met a cross and delivered a lethal, clinical finish to open the scoring. In just 6 minutes, he ended a frustrating 10-game goal drought in major international tournaments. He essentially announced to the world, loud and clear, "We are back." And let me tell you, after that 6-minute opener, the floodgates didn't just open, they were blown off the hinges. Portugal didn't sit back for a second. They systematically dismantled the debutants. In the 17th minute, with Ronaldo acting as a super clever decoy, Nuno Mendes thrashed a brilliant free kick right into the back of the net. Just before halftime, around the 39-minute mark, Ronaldo raced onto this inch-perfect through ball to confidently slot home his second. In the second half, Portugal's relentless pressure forced an unfortunate own goal from Uzbekistan's keeper, Abdo Wahid Namatov, right on the hour mark. And finally, in the 87th minute, substitute Rafael Leao put the absolute icing on the cake to make it 5-0. It was a ruthless 90-minute attacking clinic. If the timeline tells the story of the goals, the underlying data objectively proves Portugal's absolute dominance. You literally cannot argue with these numbers. Portugal held a commanding 66% possession. But here's the thing, it wasn't just empty possession, you know? They were lethal with it. They generated 2.41 expected goals compared to a mere 0.25 for Uzbekistan. The White Wolves simply couldn't get a foothold, managing 0 big chances all game. Plus, Portugal peppered the debutants' goal with 17 total shots, 9 of which were on target, compared to Uzbekistan's 7. The vast gap in quality and execution on the day was just crystal clear. But let's talk a bit more about that 66% possession, because it wasn't just about keeping the ball away. It was about totally dictating the entire tempo of the match. The real architects of this suffocating control were the Portuguese midfielders. Vitinha was absolutely stellar in the double pivot. rarely misplacing a pass and just beautifully setting the rhythm. Alongside him, Bruno Fernandes was operating near his absolute creative peak. I mean, he provided the inch-perfect assist for Ronaldo's second goal and delivered the teasing corner that forced the Uzbekistan own goal. They completely neutralized Uzbekistan's midfield, including their main creative hub, Abasbek Feyzulyev. Now, I want to go back to the number 6, but for a totally different and honestly historic reason. With his phenomenal brace in this match, Cristiano Ronaldo didn't just answer his critics, he literally rewrote the FIFA World Cup record books. Ronaldo officially became the very first player in the history of men's football to score in 6 different World Cup tournaments. No way, right? From his debut back in 2006 all the way to this massive tournament in 2026, his longevity and ruthless goal-scoring ability at the highest possible level are simply unprecedented. And the records didn't stop tumbling there. This match also represented a monumental passing of the torch for Portuguese football. Before kickoff, Ronaldo was tied with, and then quickly surpassed, one of the greatest names to ever play the game. With his 2 goals against Uzbekistan, Ronaldo took his career World Cup tally to 10 goals. In doing so, he leapfrogged the legendary Eusebio, who held the record with 9 goals. Ronaldo now stands entirely alone as Portugal's all-time leading scorer in the history of the global finals. Incredible. This age-defining performance also secured Ronaldo yet another unbelievable milestone. At 41 years and 138 days old, an age where, let's be honest, most of us might pull a hamstring just getting off the couch, he became the second oldest player to ever score in a World Cup. He sits second only in the all-time history books to Cameroon's iconic striker Roger Milla, who was 42 years and 39 days old when he scored against Russia back in 1994. To be performing with this level of speed, instinct, and clinical finishing at 41 is a huge testament to the hard work Ronaldo mentioned in his post-match interview. Okay, let's pivot and dive into the tactics that actually unlocked this game, because it definitely wasn't just about individual brilliance up top. The absolutely crucial tactical point for Roberto Martinez was the magic of his flying fullbacks. Look, Portugal lacked an attacking spark in their opening draw, but here, Nuno Mendes and João Cancelo were completely relentless. They constantly bombed up and down the flanks, creating massive overloads that completely shattered Cannavaro's 5-man defensive structure. Cancelo showcased his precision with a beautiful assist for Ronaldo's opener, and Mendes, operating with immense tenacity, smashed in that rare free kick. They were the true dynamic engines of this 5-0 win. So, what does this demolition mean for the rest of the tournament? Well, the atmosphere in the Portuguese camp has transformed literally overnight from doubt to soaring ambition. Sitting on 4 points with a massive boost to their goal difference, they are perfectly positioned to advance. Their focus now shifts to Miami this Saturday, where they'll face a really tough Colombia side in a clash that's highly likely to determine who secures the top spot in the group. The momentum is firmly back with the Celesot. But what about our debutants? For Uzbekistan, this heavy defeat unfortunately dashes their hopes of reaching the 2026 World Cup knockout stages. It's a brutal lesson for sure. Welcome to the highest level of international football. However, their story is far from over. The White Wolves will look to salvage their pride and make history one more time when they face DR Congo in their final group match. Securing historic first-ever World Cup points or even a win is still very much on the table for Cannavaro's men, and you can bet they are going to fight tooth and nail for their nation. Which brings us to our final thought for this explainer. We just saw a team completely reinvent itself from one match to the very next. We saw a 41-year-old captain absorb the absolute harshest of criticism and respond with a record-breaking 2-goal masterclass. Portugal proved that when they play with a high line, utilize their dynamic fullbacks, and feed their talisman inside the box, they are incredibly hard to stop. So the question I leave you with is this: is this 5-0 demolition just a flash of brilliance against an inexperienced debutante, or is it the true beginning of Portugal's ultimate march to World Cup glory? Thank you so much for joining me, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.